Good afternoon, and welcome to the Voice of Wisdom. With over 60 years of experience as an investment banker, entrepreneur, venture capitalist, securities analyst, and advisor, Morty Davis is a Wall Street legend. In addition, Mr. Davis is an outstanding economist and highly articulate, incisive, and very entertaining political analyst and strategist. He's Wall Street and capitalism personified. The over 400 companies for which he has raised more than $3 billion over the years have created a countless number of jobs and exciting new products. Through the Voice of Wisdom, Mr. Davis explores, analyzes, and debates the most topical economic and social issues facing our world today. Joining Mr. Davis today for a discussion on the news making the headlines is Len Carter. Len is an investment banker, business consultant, and private investor. And now, Mr. Davis and Mr. Carter.
Hello again. Welcome back. It's 6:30 Wednesday and 6:30 p.m. And we're doing the weekly Morty Davis Voice of Wisdom podcast. And I'm delighted to be with you, my beloved, most cherished guests on this podcast, and in fact, cohorts, partners in producing this podcast because of your major contributions. If not during the program, surely what you send me afterwards is so useful and so appreciated. Thank you. It looks like you all get A or A plus for your attention because the comments you make are incisive and wonderful and show what a bright, intelligent, incisive audience you are. So, as always, I have to apologize for this podcast or the result that this podcast produces, in the sense that it's inevitably designed to depress one, because all the exciting news of the week, none of it's related to good news. It's either some major catastrophe, like how many people were killed in a mass shooting, or the fires in California, or the flood in Oklahoma, all negative. A tsunami somewhere else, the breakout of a war between some nations, and it's all about death. Some young person, generally young man, who's they found killed his parents. I can't even mention all the dire news breakouts that are interrupting the programs we're attuned to. So, by virtue of that, I apologize, and I have to figure out some way to get for you to get over the depression that this is likely or prone to produce in my listeners. So what I suggest is don't turn off the podcast, because that's what the program is all about, the news of the week. The breaking news, the politics, the action of the president, of the Congress, of international foreign countries, supposed enemies or seeming to be enemies to the United States. It's just, there's no limit to the negative announcements. The that are announced during the week. I say negative because they never announce somebody graduated summa cum laude or somebody recovered from some major catastrophe or some major illness from cancer. That doesn't make the news, you know. His family is delighted by it. If we hear about it coincidentally, we appreciate knowing something good happens every once in a while. But overwhelmingly, the news that makes the headlines and the major announcements that interrupt what you're listening to are shootings and killings and wars and fires and hurricanes and floods, all negative. Very exciting, but very depressing, and the damage is done to our fellow men, to our neighbors, to our countrymen, to human beings throughout the world. So, in light of that, I suggest the best way to overcome that kind of depression is not to turn off the podcast, because you'll lose all the excitement that this program conveys to you. And you'll lose the insights and the important news, because it is important news. To make the headlines, it has to be important, or at least the news media that's sending it to us deems it to be very important. Otherwise, they wouldn't put it on the front page, or they wouldn't put it to break some important program that you love, and gets interrupted by virtue of the nature of the urgent breaking news. So, in order for me to suggest the best way for you to overcome such a depression, the kind of depression that this program, that this podcast is likely to induce, is I want to give you one idea. First of all, I want to give you the suggestion that you should run out and get a copy of this book that's on your screen if you're watching this live. But since you can't get all of the wisdom in this book that took me over 12 years to write and gather, and even after 12 years I wasn't finished, but my daughter, who's written several books herself, her name is Rookie, read the 12 years of work and said, "Dad, I read it, it's phenomenal. What you wrote is phenomenal. Why don't you publish it?" And I said, "Well, I'm still gathering more information, you know. I want to make sure I include all the wisdom of the ages." So she said, "You got to get it done." And with that, she jumped in, and the following 2 years, she worked with me and introduced a lot of material that I hadn't yet picked up. And therefore, it's comprehensive and it's terrific, even if I say so myself. It's got humor, it's got jokes, it's got brilliant ideas, not my ideas necessarily, certainly a compendium of all the ideas I found over the ages, the kind of ideas that changed my life, because I used to be depressed by all that I was living through, or the news or whatever. And so one day I heard about a book that a bishop who led a church, a major church, Catholic church in Manhattan, wrote, called The Power of Positive Thinking. And when I read that book, it changed my whole life. And as a consequence, I put all that information in this book, and I found so many other brilliant writers and philosophers and thinkers that gave me their thoughts and their brilliant insights on how to achieve happiness, or more than happiness, contentment. Because in this country we think of happiness as when somebody has a fix on drugs and they're jumping up and down and banging everybody else nearby on the back and laughing, and singing, or if they have a glass of vodka or 12 beers or something. But that's not really happiness. As soon as the effect wears off, instead of being happier or more content, you usually have a headache or a hangover. So I gathered all that wisdom for myself primarily, but then I said I shouldn't be so selfish, and I should make that wisdom of the ages, of all the philosophers and biblical scholars and Torah information and every source, the great thinkers of all the ages, the Greek philosophers, Plato and Socrates, and just everybody. Dale Carnegie was another one early on in my life who wrote a book that inspired me and lifted my mood and gave me contentment throughout my life, was Dale Carnegie's famous book, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. So this book has collected all of that wisdom and put it here for your own edification and enlightenment on how to live a better life, how to be, what's the word again?
Content.
Content. I consider contentment the ideal happiness. Not that you're instantly jumping up and down, but throughout the days of your life, you feel good about your experiences, about your love, about your family, about your friends, about the blessings you enjoy in your life. So that's the purpose of this book. And since those ideas did so much for me, I wanted to make them available to the rest of my friends and relatives and neighbors and countrymen and all of humanity. And this is the product. So run out and acquire this book as soon as possible. Not before you finish listening or participating in this podcast, but soon thereafter. And it'll be the best investment you ever made. And I know that from all of the feedback I've gotten over the year, since more than 1 year, since the book was published and issued and available to people interested in the subject. So the feedback I've gotten has been so positive. I haven't got one negative because I offered to return anybody's purchase price, double their purchase price, if they didn't find it beneficial and useful and rewarding. And in all this time, even though getting double your money back of your purchase price should make you happy and should be an inducement to send back your purchase slip, or if you got it as a gift, the purchase slip of your donor, gift giver. If you ask him for a purchase slip and he gives it to you, and you really didn't feel you benefited from this book, and you didn't get a lot out of it, I will send you double the purchase price on that purchase slip. So I'm so positive that I still give all my listeners and all those that come by and purchase this book double their money back if they assert that they did not get a lot out of it, if it wasn't actually one of the best expenditures they spent in their lifetime. So, like I say, don't wait. As soon as this program's over, or soon thereafter, run out and get a copy of Happiness Guaranteed or Your Misery Back. A picture of the book should be, of the cover of the book should be on the screen if you're watching this live. And at the bottom of the cover it says, how to be happy no matter what. And that's true, because with all the humor and all the uplifting stories and inspirational stories and jokes and all the things that are meant to raise the level of joy and what's the word?
Contentment.
And contentment in your life. It's going to be the best investment, not one-time investment, but throughout the years you have the book available to you. So get a hold of it, and if you send back the purchase price slip, and I'll send you double your money back, that in itself should help make you happy, because you got to you doubled your money, and you can keep the book as well. I don't know how you could have a better offer than that. Just don't run out and buy 100 books and get double your money back for 100 books. But other than that, so, and without giving you everything in the book, all of the wisdom of this book, all of the knowledge and insights of all the greatest people in the history of the world that I could find, I want to give you at least one quick idea that will help you respond to the inevitable depression that the upcoming podcast will likely or almost certainly induce in you. So one way to get over depression, one of the things that gives people heart attacks is when they're stressed out from aggravation. As a matter of fact, cardiologists give stress tests to find out if your heart is okay, because that if you're terribly stressed, you're more likely to get a heart attack. So to deal with the stress that depression imposes, I suggest one way to overcome that as fast as humanly possible is take a deep breath, inhale and exhale, and right away you'll release a lot of the tension and stress and depression, and we'll be able to move on. So that's my quick solution. In addition, you might want to do some mild exercise, which also generates good breathing. I was going to say good breathing, but that too, but maybe. Good breathing. And gets you out of the rut that you might have been induced to experience as you listen to this podcast. So do that, and you'll find that's really phenomenal. Just take a deep breath, stay in one place, take a deep breath, and let it out.
But don't stop after that one breath.
Don't stop breathing.
Yeah. You usually tell people the advice of Thomas Edison.
Yeah. A young man came up to Thomas Edison. He's the one that after years of working on the project, finally successfully created one of the most important inventions in the history of the human race. He, like God, he brought light. He developed the electric bulb. And he was famously known for having failed 1,000 times. So a young man came up to him one time and said, "Mr. Edison, how come most of us, we fail once, twice, 3 times, and we throw in the towel? And you were so persistent. You stayed on the project 1,000 times till you were successful." And Thomas Edison responded, "Young man, who told you I failed 1,000 times?" And the young man responded, "Everybody knows that we talk about it all the time. My friends, when we get discouraged, we talk about it. And our high school teacher used to repeat it. Our college teachers repeated that same thing. Remember what Thomas Edison did. He persevered in the face of what most of us consider failure." So Thomas Edison responded, "Young man, I don't know why these people say that, because I never failed even once." So the young man said, "Don't tell me that. It's common knowledge. We always repeat it, and our wise teachers do, and our professors do. Our parents even might remind us of it." So Thomas Edison responded, "I never failed even once. 1,000 times I succeeded in finding out what didn't work. And each time I was uplifted because I knew I eliminated one possibility that would never work, and I became closer to the final solution." So I remind you, don't get discouraged if you fail. If you're working on some project, and I suggest you do, so your life becomes meaningful instead of just being a blob in this world. I want you to have purpose. So figure out something, some goal that you'd love to achieve, that you're capable of achieving. Because I wanted to be Elvis Presley. But sadly, my father hired somebody to train me to sing, some cantor. And after 2 sessions, he came to my father and he said, "I really appreciate the nice payment you award me every week for helping your son, but in good conscience, I can't continue taking it. But because there's no way in the world I could help your son become a singer. He doesn't have the ear, he doesn't have the voice, and so I suggest you discontinue, even though I love the payments. So that was a real worthy gentleman, that Cantor. So remember, if you're working on a project whose goal you're capable of achieving, and you're working towards that goal, it's fulfilling even as you take each step and see each step as some kind of failure. Recognize that you're getting one step closer to achieving that goal. And when you get there, finally, but even if you don't get there, on the route, on the pathway to getting there, each time you get back to that effort, because it's so important to you, and it's so meaningful if you could ever achieve it, you really love the project. So don't just say, this is my goal and I want to achieve it. I want you to spend some real time thinking about a goal that you have in life, that if you achieved it, your purpose in life would be fulfilled and you would be very greatly gratified. So have your life become purposeful, have a purpose in your life, and it will make you more exciting, more excited every day of your life as you work on it and look forward to starting all over again each day. Remember, each day you get up is the beginning of your new life. Don't focus on the failures of the past, the disappointments, the tragedies we all go through, the losses we all suffer. That's inevitable. But find something that truly inspires you and go back to that project each time. And it gives you a purpose in life, and you're never bored and always enthused about working on this project. If it's one that you really thought about and think you can achieve with your own talents and capacity. And if you're dedicated to it, I assure you, you will get there and you will achieve that goal. But even if you never did, if your life ended before that, you will increase your, what's the word?
Contentment.
Your contentment in everyday life by doing that. So like Thomas Edison, who kept at it and never failed, even though the rest of us think he failed 1,000 times. He succeeded 1,000 times in moving one step closer by finding out what didn't work, even though when he tried the initial effort, he thought it was one of the clues, one of the answers. But he realized each time that he was eliminating one hopeless effort. So run out and get this book. It'll give you the enthusiasm, the encouragement, and also smile as you do in everything in life. It's hard to be depressed when you smile. Don't focus on the negatives of the past and focus on some of the bright things you're looking forward to in the future. Remember, as the saying goes, the past is history. You can't change history. The future is a mystery. It's not, you can't know it even if you spend all the time, unless you're one of God's prophets. But all you have is the present. The moment, this current moment, the present. And that's why it's called the present, because it's a gift. It's the beginning of your new life. Every time you wake up, the new day is the beginning of your new life. And all that negative history is gone and not worth focusing on, except to the extent that it might provide a platform or an experience that helps you think of how to handle some adversity better. So, right now, if you, at the end of this, or anytime during this program, if you get impressed, take a deep breath. Just appreciate that you can do that, because there's hundreds of thousands of people, even millions of people in the world that can't do that without oxygen help or other help. And smile and laugh and see if you can find a joke that will encourage you to laugh, because all of that will lift you up. So that's my best advice as a response to the depression and the negative feelings that this podcast might inevitably induce. So other than that, and running out and get tons of good ideas of how to make your life more enriched, more, what's the word?
Content.
More content every single moment of your life. Not once, not instantly, but throughout your future years. So now, without further ado, and again, without beating your brains out and urging you to run out and buy this book, I can urge you strongly enough to get a copy of this book. It's a winning strategy, because even if you don't love it, I'll give you double your money back, which itself should make you happy, and you can keep the book and get the benefits in any event. So without further ado, let's get on with the news of the week that's going to induce this negative feelings on your part, this depression. We have Leonard Carter with us once again, my favorite co-host, a brilliant guest. He graduated with a degree in electrical engineering at the top of his class with honors at one of the best universities in the United States, an Ivy League college called Cornell University. Then he went on to join my alumni, where I had graduated from prior to his ever attending the Harvard Business School, and he graduated at the top of his class there. And then he went to graduate work in electrical engineering at one of the top universities in the world, Stanford University, that has graduated more billionaires in technology than any other college or series of colleges in the whole world. And he got a master's in electrical engineering with the highest honors. So I'm delighted to have him back. Welcome back.
Thank you, Morty.
Leonard Carter.
It's a pleasure.
And you're going to enjoy his wisdom. I love him, and I think he's brilliant, and I enjoy the wisdom that he adds, and the knowledge, the insights, even though at times I want to punch him in the mouth. or he aggravates me so much.
That's going to happen today, because whatever side you take, when I ask you the question, I'm taking the other side.
See how nasty he is? See how nasty he is? But he's always right, I'm sad to say. So, without further ado, Leonard, why don't you
Sure. So, you
launch.
know, when I a couple of weeks ago at the end of the year, I was thinking what would be some interesting discussion topics for the new year. So one of the things I was thinking to do was to have a show where we talk about predictions of what things would happen. And one of the questions for predictions was going to be, what will the U.S. go into Venezuela? Another one was going to be, is there going to be a crisis over immigration policy? Another one was going to be, is the administration going to sue the Fed? All these things are happening before we could even have the predictions for whether they were going to happen or not.
Was who going to sue the Fed?
Federal was
the president going to sue the Fed?
The DOJ, the government suing the Fed. So before we could even have the predictions, they're already happening.
Yeah.
And so one of those was, is there going to be a crisis over, the immigration policy and some of the enforcement and execution of the immigration policy? And sure enough, last week we saw that with in Minneapolis, where an ICE agent fatally shot a woman named Renee Good, who was in her car and leaving the scene. So before, I don't want to bias what your thoughts on that are by describing what happened, but why don't we start with the big question, and then we can sort of break it down and discuss some of the rationale for it.
She was killed by a bullet from an ICE representative.
Yes,
is that right?
an agent.
Who hit her right between the eyes.
Shot 3 times through the windshield and killed her. So outrage on a lot of sides, justified, not justified. So what's your sense on what you have seen? There's been a lot of video footage. When Kennedy was assassinated, there was one guy who had a camera as a pewter, and he just happened to be shooting in Daly Square and captured the assassination on film. Now you have like 10 different people with cell phone videos from this angle, from that angle. Even the officer who shot Renee Good had a cell phone, not a body cam, but he had a cell phone in one hand and a gun in another hand. So you see like 10 different angles. So, which is, I don't know, good or bad, but at least, what happened can often be up to interpretation, even with videos. We see that now with 10 different videos, and 10 different people can see what they see and all have a different thought.
There were a lot of videos, not only the one he was taking.
Right. Other bystanders saying like at least maybe 5 or more, and then there's, I think the investigation will also, that people have these Ring cameras and that maybe some of those things, security footage, caught some of this as it played out, and we don't even know that yet. But clearly, in this age, there's a lot more information. But as I said, it's sometimes having more doesn't necessarily help, because even with all the footage that we have, people look at it and still come to different conclusions, even with the same footage. So, what's the big picture? What's your gut sense on whether this was, is there someone to blame? Is it just a tragedy? How could it have been avoided?
As always, there's more than one view or one conclusion of what happened and what was right or wrong. And that is, some people, including the ICE leaders and even the president, said what he did was appropriate, because she should have just got out of the car and instead of moving the car and threatening what he thought was his life, particularly since we learned that only a year ago that very same ICE officer was dragged by another car and thrown down, and he had multiple stitches. So it wasn't like he wasn't already inclined to be very concerned for his very life, or at least for some major bodily harm. So the people that defend him, and maybe he himself thinks that he had no alternative than to protect himself, because she wouldn't cooperate, and she was seen moving the car. Some people say right on him, toward him. Other people say, and you could see that too, that she was turning her wheels away from him. But as many possible conclusions, both in favor of the officer and in favor of the woman, Renee Good, were visible and could be derived from the numerous photos. I'm reminded that in my first year at Harvard Business School, in the first year we all took the same, all my class took the same courses. There's no options, no choices. So one of the things the administration and the professors felt we should see was an old Japanese movie. I don't know if they showed that to you when you were there. A very old Japanese movie that shows somebody who was killed in a forest. And there's many people that saw it, and they came to testify what they saw. And as they told the story, it was replayed as a video, you could see how each one of them could come to the conclusion they had. And the reason they showed us that was because my class today, they don't have that. My class at the time, which was a class of 59, in other words, we entered the Harvard Business School in 57, almost none of the students had work experience. They took students right out of college based on their performance in college and their good works they might have done for charities and so forth. So we were shown that film to people who had no experience in the real world and jobs. Whenever there was a big argument, a fight, the employee wanted a raise or something, they always said, why don't he give him a raise? They didn't think it was a problem. Or somebody else got an office with a sign on it. Why didn't I get a sign like that on it? They said, yeah, he should have got it. They didn't realize that there's a lot of things that go into a decision, and they have to learn that. And the purpose of that film was you have to consider all of the factors, including the thinking of the participants that actually performed the killing or experienced the killing. And that was very useful. Today, they don't need to show a film because in order to attend Harvard Business School, you must have worked 2 years in the real world. You must have had a job that they're impressed with to accept you. So you don't have this thing automatically, give him a raise or give him his own office. Or, it's easy to say if you have no background. Why not? You want to be popular? Why are you abusing your own employee when all he's asking for is a raise? So they determined they won't take any new applicant for the master's degree in business, unless they were 2 years at some meaningful job. So in this case, likewise, there's so many different views of the same event, and you could see how the different views stand up. One person says, well, he had no alternative. She was moving the car toward him. He already had in his case, a terrible experience where he got I think 30 stitches or more a year before from a car that was moving and knocked him over. And here you could see how he could feel that was going to happen to him. He might actually get killed. On the other hand, you see how Will turned away from him. So you say, why did it have to do that? Or like my aide said, why didn't he shoot her tires? Well, at that split second, you have to make a split-second decision to save your own life, to avoid a major tragedy. You're not thinking, I'll stop and I'll see if I could hit her tires. Even police that are well-trained in shooting rarely hit their target. They might hit some part of the person or some part of the body of the physical thing they're attacking, whose occupant they're attacking.
So, based on what you've seen,
so my feeling is none of us at this juncture can make a conclusive decision. They're going to do some extensive research. That doesn't mean they'll come to an actual accurate conclusion, but at least they'll have more information than all of us who just saw some pictures.
So when Kristi Noem came out and said this is domestic terrorism, the officer was totally justified. Do you think that was premature?
I think anybody that made a decision one way or the other was premature, yes. And the President of the United States said the same thing. He said it was her fault.
Yes.
She should have just got out of the car.
Yes.
And he wouldn't have shot her.
Yes.
So, there's merit to that. And there's merit to the fact that still no reason to shoot somebody between the eyes just because they won't get out of the car and start driving away.
Do you think that it's even possible now to have a fair investigation, given that, DHS and the President and the Vice President have all come out right away and basically exonerate the officer? Can you even have, what does that do to, juror pools or public trust?
Well,
or can you even have a fair investigation?
That is a problem. We have that in too many cases. They nevertheless recruit a jury that convinces both sides, the prosecutors and the defense, that these jurors will be impartial.
How can you really find 12 men and women who live under rocks, who've never watched the news, who've never read the newspaper, who didn't hear the president say what he said? Can you really find 12 people?
They claim they never heard the comments, or if they heard it,
they are biased.
It didn't bias them. They still want to see what it's like.
No, I think that's right. That's why we can have trials, because it's not whether you know about it, it's whether you feel you can render an impartial decision. And so just because you read about it doesn't mean you're going to be biased.
Look, I don't know if you realize it, but only a few blocks from where this event occurred, we had the event with Floyd,
Yeah.
the African American who was wrestled to the ground and held there till help came, additional help came, and he was held down for, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, and then apparently he lost his ability to breathe. Maybe they were on his stomach or whatever, and he passed away. And the officer who was on top of him, who was holding him because he seemed to be a bad guy, he had done some bad things, was accused of murdering him, and was, if you would believe he was guilty, then he got the right sentence. I personally don't think it was beyond a reasonable doubt, because they had witnesses that both ways, expert witnesses that testified that he died not from being held down by this officer, but he died because he had other problems, other health problems, and he was on drugs, apparently. So that should have certainly given the argument that there's reasonable doubt, but it was so emotional in that community, they couldn't even take the position, and they, I don't know if it was a judge or a jury, I think it was the judge, that gave him like 50 years or something.
Yeah, he was found guilty. I'm not sure if it was a jury trial. I think it might have been.
No,
So,
but there were expert witnesses that said, they called expert witnesses who testified they're convinced that he didn't die from being held down for 15 minutes, but rather from other realities in his life, that he was on drugs.
So what do you think about the use or the permitted use of lethal force? Do you think that there should be certain circumstances where lethal force is permitted?
Yes. The only thing I'd say is these particular people, the ICE people who are recruited to do that, unlike the police, are not trained to deal with this kind of.
Do you know how much training an ICE officer gets?
What?
He has 47 days.
47 days?
You know where they came up with 47?
No.
Donald Trump's the 47th president.
That's a good reason.
So they get 47 days of training, which sounds like you're arguing may not be enough.
Yeah.
Like what people will say on this one, that police are trained in vehicular situations to get to the side of the car.
Right.
So that
to get out of the way.
Right, and not to be in the front. Like
not jeopardize
if
themselves.
You see it coming, right.
Yeah.
So, you can, I think that people will make the argument that, well, he should have been on the side of the car. But
yeah, but they also, the others who say, well, the guy asks, the ICE guy asks her to get out of the car.
That's violating a valid police order.
Yeah.
So that's,
so I'm saying,
interfering. The woman was sideways in the street, blocking or interfering with a federal operation. That's a felony.
That was actually the reason and the purpose why they showed us this classic Japanese film that went back to maybe even silent films, and to point out that it's impossible in these quick things to make an accurate, and you get the same, they show you the same thing, and you could see how each one's presentation holds up in their mind.
Right. I mean, if the standard to be permitted to use lethal force is fear of life,
Yeah,
right?
self-defense.
There's only one person who can determine whether they are fearful, and that's the person who's being
right. But still, other people could
will say you should have this, you should have that.
He overreacted.
So that's why I would agree if this does go to trial, and then who knows, it's a whole nother issue that the feds are taking over the investigation and not allowing Minnesota state officials to do an investigation.
I think they should both do it. They should all do it.
Of course they should, but if the feds take this over and kind of brush it away, then there's not going to be a criminal trial.
It's important enough that they should get all of the different players.
But I think given the standard here in a criminal trial, which is, as you said, beyond reasonable doubt, can there be, if the officer testifies, I thought my life was in danger. How can anyone beyond reasonable doubt say, no, you didn't think you were? There's only one person who knows what was going on in his head.
You don't have time to reflect. It's a
4 seconds.
Split second.
The whole thing happened in 4 seconds.
It's a split-second decision. So that's my response to that. I don't know if it was right or wrong. It wound up being totally wrong and devastating. But is anybody guilty? Are they both guilty? That I can't determine based on what I've seen of the different pictures that these photos show.
So do you think that there
I don't think he should get a medal for.
So how do you stop? Can you have rules where top officials can't make claims until there's independent investigations? I mean, how do you stop? Maybe they shouldn't. But how do you avoid people like the Kristi Noem or Trump or
the position of the people that are protesting is ICE doesn't belong doing that duty. Or military people don't do that. They're not trained for it, and so they're not even dealing with the latter part.
But how do you stop the jump to opinion? The quick judge to jump to judgment when you have the president and vice president coming out and the head of DHS coming out before there's any independent. How do you stop that?
It's the film it's the film they saw, and they thought she misbehaved.
Well, but they should. As you said before, they should know that people have different views, and then
they're giving you based on what they saw. There's actual film based on what they saw. She threatened his life, and so that.
But should they be saying that until there's an independent investigation?
No, I don't think so.
So how do you prevent that? What can you do?
You can't stop them from having an opinion.
Yes, you can. I don't know. They shouldn't, but a lot of politicians do stuff they shouldn't do.
Right.
So I don't know.
Politicians do stuff they shouldn't do? I never heard that.
No.
Why are they impeached? For no reason?
We're almost out of time, so I'll ask one other question.
Almost out of time? I thought we just started.
Time flies.
When you're having fun,
But what do you think this all says? How people on both sides react and are reacting to the situation. What does it say about the immigration policies that are in place now?
That more than anything else dictates their conclusions. It's what you come to the scene with.
Right.
What attitude.
Right.
So those that think that the country needs protection from these people that don't behave, that when they're asked to get out of the car, don't do it, that they're right.
Or not just don't behave, but are here, even if they're behaving, they're just here when they're not supposed to be here.
I don't know. She wasn't.
No. But I'm saying, but the federal, the immigration policies being enforced are, if you're illegal, you're out. And so, if people are saying that's a good policy, then it doesn't matter whether you're law-abiding or whether you're.
This wasn't even involved with.
I'm talking more broadly, though. What does it say about, are the immigration policies, which are largely.
Len, that's a whole other subject.
Right. So I guess so.
That's an encyclopedic.
That's why we
discussion in
that's
itself.
That's why we'll have future discussions, I suppose. But
yeah.
Anyway, thanks for the talk.
Thank you for joining us. Like I say, you helped the program move so smoothly and so quickly that before I turn around, the program is over. So thank you. God bless you. And God bless you, all my fellow participants in this podcast. Have a wonderful week. Have a wonderful every day of your life. Each day should be better than the day before, perpetually into your future, unto eternity. I love you, and I hope to be back with you all next Wednesday at 6:30. Bye.